For our last recipe we're going to do for Thanksgiving, we're going to do bacon wrapped asparagus. But before we do that, I want to just add another verse. In this time with pandemic and things that are going on, we've all had losses. I've had personal losses in the last 2 weeks, and it's been a really tough month. And you think about when you're cooking for your family, sometimes you don't want it to be a drudge. You don't want it to be something that you just don't want to do, because you want to please your family, you want to bless your family. And so you don't want to do something so difficult that you get more anxious about cooking. So I tried to pick recipes that were not hard to do, like one stop, shrimp artichoke dip. One of the verses that I found that I wanted to share with you, talking about anxiety, and her devotion was called Weathering the Storms of Life. And it was talking about Jesus in the boat with his disciples and how fearful they got when the storms came up. And he said to his disciples, Jesus said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" After all he had done, after all he had shown them, they were still very fearful. Just right off, first storm, first thing that happened in their lives that day, and they were very fearful. And it's really hard to have peace when in your heart and in your life when there's so many things going on around you. And so the pandemic and COVID is just one thing that's going on around us. We still have the flu, we still have stomach bugs, we still have sick children, we still have sick parents, we still have people who are losing loved ones. And so it's really hard to have peace sometimes. But Raul and I have talked so many times when we're going through something like that, when we're weathering the storms of life, that what do you do if you don't have God in your heart? If you don't believe in God and you don't have that hope that you're going to see those loved ones again, or that God is in control and he's going to take care of every situation that we could ever have or even not even think of. And so in her devotion, she talks about the story of Jesus in the boat and the disciples and how he calmed the waters and calmed them. And he said, we need to trust him that he is in the boat of life with us. And I thought that was a great analogy, because we are all going down the river of life in a boat, and we have no idea what's in the water below us. We don't have any idea what's in the skies above us, but God already knows. And God's in control of all those things. So just a little thought of when you weather your life storms through this holiday season, that you depend on the giver of calm and the giver of peace. Okay, so our last recipe is a bacon wrapped asparagus. If you've been to the ladies event before, I think maybe last year or maybe year before last, I did bacon wrapped whole green beans. And it was a recipe that I adapted from a casserole. Sweetened green beans is a very popular thing at my house. I think we've had 4 or 5 birthdays in November, and at my house, when you have a birthday, you get to pick your favorite meal and you get to pick everything you want to eat. And I think every person has picked hash brown potato casserole and sweetened green beans. So I'm a little bit tired of green beans, so we're going to do asparagus. And I wanted to show you today, this is just one bunch of asparagus, and I'm going to show you today how you can make it in probably 10-15 minutes using the broiler in your oven. You could actually even put it in a crock pot, but you would not want to do the bacon. If you don't want to do the bacon, you can do this very same thing, broiling technique with the asparagus, and leave it savory. This is a recipe that you can make sweet or savory. I'm going to make it a little sweet. I'm not going to make it with dripping off brown sugar, but I am going to make it just a little sweet, because when you caramelize that bacon with the brown sugar, it's really tasty. So I'm going to show you first off how you cut asparagus. We're going to get our pan over here. I just have a cookie sheet, and then to catch the baking drippings, I just have my grill pan from outside, and I just put it down, then I spray it. And you could put parchment or aluminum foil or whatever in the bottom if you want to clean up, have easy cleanup, but of course I never do that. So anyway, you take your asparagus and you just bend it until it breaks. That is where this bunch of asparagus needs to be cut. Now, instead of doing that 50 times or whatever you have, you take your asparagus, leave your rubber bands on, put it back down here, and and then you just cut through. And I usually give it about another 1/2 inch just so I can, have enough asparagus. Just cut through a whole bunch. Throw this away. Now, I know some people who would use that, and that's okay. It's just a little tougher for this recipe. It's a little tough. So, if you have, let's say 8 people coming, 6 to 8 people coming, then you're going to want to make sure that you have enough asparagus for them. So, I'm going to just say that most people would have 4 to 5, maybe 6 ears or stalks of asparagus. We're going to do 5 because it's a good bundle. So, I'm going to do 5 stalks of asparagus. I'm probably going to get 6 servings out of this bunch. So if you're going to do more, you want to be sure that you kind of count the stalks when you pick them up. You may need to get 2 bunches of asparagus. Okay. Also, another trick is thin bacon is lovely, but thick bacon is more lovely, in my opinion. We like thick bacon at our house, but I like the thick bacon on this recipe and on the bundled green beans because it's easier to handle. Okay. Also, you can, but you don't have to have a whole piece of bacon. So, depending on what size your bacon is, I usually cut it in half. And I forgot to do this. You have your brown sugar. I'm just going to put some in this bowl right here. Light or dark, it does not matter for those of you who are going to ask me that question. And then usually if you do this in a paper plate, it's a lot easier. I just forgot to get the paper plate. But you just tap your bacon into the sugar. You take your 5 or 6 or whatever you want to do. Asparagus stalks, you just wrap it around. Doesn't have to go all the way around, but you want to make sure that the bottoms meet on one place. And then you just put it on your tray. And you do that as many times as you need to. So through the magic of video, we're going to stop it so I can wrap these. Okay, through the magic of video, we ended up having 7 bundles of 5 in that one batch of asparagus. So, if you feel like you have heavy eaters who are going to definitely want 2 bundles of asparagus, like I do, I would double this for my house. Maybe even triple it. And so, you only have 1/2 piece of bacon on each one of these. And then, you also have, at the end, I like to sprinkle a little bit of garlic salt. Salt again, I know, but just a little bit onto the bundles. And then you are going to bake these bundles until they're a tender crisp, which is probably 10 to 15 minutes. Okay. And I would say watch them carefully because you're going to bake them about 400. And what you're baking them, the reason you're baking them is to get the asparagus done and the bacon cooked. But then at the very end, you're going to take your oven off of bake and put it on broil. And you're going to broil it until the bacon and the brown sugar bubble on top. And then you have caramelized that brown sugar on top of your bacon. So that is the finishing touch, and it really makes a huge difference. You can bake the whole thing. It'll all get brown. It may take 15-20 minutes if you want to bake it brown. But if you want to bake it most of the way done and then do that little trick, it's really a good caramelized bacon on top.